A car driven by Tess Marshall stopped in front of the house. Tess reads a message on how to open the lockbox that contains the key to open the house. After several tries the given code, Tess managed to open the lockbox, but did not find the key inside. Then she couldn't call the rental agent, so Tess left a voicemail and waited in the car. Tess saw the house lights were on and a man was inside. The man says that he is not the owner, but he is the tenant of the house. Tess was confused because she had already paid the rent for this house 1 month ago. Feeling there was a mistake, the man allowed Tess to enter the house. The man's name was Keith. He shows proof of his rent and says that this was a misunderstanding. He treats Tess very well, but Tess is awkward because she is alone with a foreign man in the house, so Tess intends to find an inn. But Keith didn't think it was a good idea considering it was late and there was a medical convention in town, so it was likely that Tess would find it difficult to find lodging. Keith invited Tess to sleep in the room while he would sleep on the sofa. In the room, Tess saw Keith's wallet was left behind, and Tess took a photo of Keith's ID card and then returned it. Tess tells the purpose of coming to town for a job interview as a researcher making a documentary film produced by Catherine James. The conversation grew closer because Keith knew one of the films made by Catherine James. Then they sleep. Tess, who had just fallen asleep, was startled by the sound of the bedroom door opening by itself. From the gap in the door, Tess saw Keith sleeping on the sofa delirious from a bad dream. Tess wakes Keith and asks if Keith opened the door to his room. Keith didn't admit it. Then Tess went back into the room and made sure the door was locked, then went back to sleep. The next day Tess wakes up without seeing Keith in the house. Keith was jogging and left a letter asking Tess to leave the keys in the lockbox. On the way, Tess saw that all the houses in her neighborhood had been abandoned by their occupants and left it broken. Tess meets with Catherine. Tess told Catherine that she had rented a house in the Brightmoor area. Catherine is shocked and reminds Tess not to stay in the area, but Tess says she can't find another place to stay because of a medical convention. Catherine advised Tess to be more careful. Tess returns home. A homeless man named Andre shouted, warning her not to enter the house. Tess, who was scared, immediately went into the house and locked the door, then called 911. But the police officer was busy at the moment, and Andre was not in front of the house. Tess went to the toilet and ran out of tissue. Tess searched around, and found it in the basement. But when she came back, suddenly the basement door was locked, locking Tess in it. Tess then realized that her cell phone was left in her room, and she also brought the house keys so that Keith could not enter the house. Tess thought of going out through the basement window and looking for something to break the glass. Just then she found a rope hidden behind an item on a shelf, then slowly pulled it, and a door opened a secret passage. The hallway was dark. Out of curiosity, Tess took a mirror to reflect light into the hallway. There was a reflection of light from inside. When Tess ventured into it, it turned out that the reflection came from the iron door handle. When the lights were on, Tess saw the bed and a video camera. Then there was Keith's knocking from upstairs, and Tess called out from behind the basement window. Tess, who panicked to pack her things to get out of the house, she told Keith about the room. Keith was going to check the room. He asked for a little time for Tess to wait for him. Then Keith went down to the basement. A few moments of waiting, Keith did not return. Tess went back downstairs but couldn't find Keith in the room. Then she found another door which contained a staircase leading down to another very dark alley. Keith screamed for help from inside. Tess hesitated but ventured down the stairs to the bottom. There are many iron cages of unknown use. The longer the atmosphere, the darker it gets. Until finally Tess found Keith. Tess, who was scared, immediately took Keith upstairs, but Keith said that someone else was in this place and had bit him. Then suddenly someone came to catch Keith and repeatedly banged Keith's head against the stone wall. Keith died. The frightened Tess just stood still in front of the strange woman. A man named AJ, who was driving a car. Then he received a call informing him that he was fired from his job due to allegations of harassment from a woman. AJ was shocked. He couldn't accept the accusation. Then consulted his finance manager to hire a lawyer and sue the complainant with defamation charges. But apparently the finances are not enough to hire a lawyer. AJ has to save money to survive. He returned to his home in Detroit, and took his house keys at the rental office, which was none other than the house that Tess had rented. Arriving at the house, AJ saw Tess's car. Then he entered, and saw the basement door still jammed with a chair, and some of Tess's belongings, so AJ thought that someone was still in the house. Then he called the property agent, but apparently the agent said the house was empty. The next day AJ starts searching to find out who owns these items. But he couldn't find any clues. Then his attention was drawn to the basement. AJ hears sound from downstairs. Thinking someone was in the basement, AJ got ready, then went down the stairs. AJ finds the rope and finds out there is a secret room. Finding the room very big, AJ thinks he will make a profit by selling this house. He started measuring the room, then accidentally found the door Tess had found earlier. Unsuspectingly, AJ descended the stairs while measuring the length of the room, until his attention was distracted by the light coming from the television that was on. Then something pulls the meter. AJ is shocked and put on alert. Suddenly he heard a voice that scared him, then he ran to find a way out. But AJ fell. Dimly he saw a female figure coming to him. AJ ran again but then entered the trap hole and met Tess, who was still alive. Then the scene switches to the past when housing was still crowded. Frank is the owner of the house. He left the house to go to the mini market to buy baby supplies. After that Frank's eyes fell on a woman. Then Frank followed the woman all the way to her house. Frank disguised himself as a firefighter and then asked permission to inspect the woman's house. Frank just unlocked the toilet window and then said goodbye and left. Arriving at the house, Frank's neighbor said goodbye to move because the housing was uncomfortable for him. Then Frank carried his groceries into the basement, and heard a woman scream from inside. Tess tells AJ to stay calm so as not to upset the woman. Then the woman came to give them a bottle of milk. Tess drinks milk, then asks AJ to drink it too. The lady treats them like her baby. But AJ refused, so the woman came down and carried AJ upstairs, then forced AJ to breastfeed. Tess used the opportunity to get out, but she accidentally stepped on the meter so that it made a sound that made the woman know of her escape. Tess ran to the basement door, but the door was locked. Then Tess broke the basement window, and Andre came to her aid when the woman almost caught her. Andre advised Tess to leave immediately because the strange woman would come out to look for her at night. AJ follows a rope which is connected by a bell. Arriving at a door, AJ entered the room. Suddenly he was surprised by the presence of an old man, namely Frank, on the bed. Frank gave a gesture that AJ didn't understand, so he moved the table closer to him. Tess runs looking for help to save AJ and borrows a phone from a convenience store. A few moments later the officers came, but they did not really respond to Tess's request because she did not have the key to open the door of the house. Then there was a radio call. The officer immediately left Tess. In the room, AJ sees many videos, each with a different woman's name. AJ plays one of them which contains torture by Frank. Frank takes the gun from the drawer and kills himself. Meanwhile Tess entered the house, took the car keys and started the car. Tess immediately spurred the car, hit and pinned the strange woman against the wall of the house. Tess returns to the basement to rescue AJ, who is looking for a way out with a gun in hand. In the dark, a panicked AJ opened fire on Tess's stomach. Arriving in the courtyard, Tess realized that the strange woman was no longer where she was. Tess's car broke down. AJ's car keys were left in the basement hallway, so Tess took AJ to the water tower. Andre said that the woman was Frank's son, and had a mental disorder. They lived there, never leaving the house. The woman was obsessed with being a mother, so Frank kept many women in the basement to produce children to give to the mad woman. Suddenly the mad woman attacked Andre to death. Shocked and panicked, AJ immediately fled up the water tower, leaving Tess in tow. He tried to shoot but the gun fell. They were trapped on top of the tower along with the mad woman. AJ, who wants to live by sacrificing Tess, throws Tess from the top of the tower, so the mad woman, who thinks Tess is her son, jumps to save Tess. AJ comes to them, but it turns out that the mad woman is still alive, and kills AJ. Seeing the injured Tess, the mad woman was sad. She seduced Tess to come back to the basement, but Tess secretly took a gun, aimed at the woman, and fired a shot in the head. The mad woman died. The end. We recommend you watch this film in full. Don't forget to subscribe, like and share this video. Take care of your health wherever you are. See you in another video.